You're listening to the Light Novel Podcast. Visit us online at lightnovelpodcast.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Light Novel Podcast. I'm Justus R. I run a light novel dedicated channel on YouTube where I do reviews, countdowns, and just general information. I also am an author. I'm currently finishing up a series called The Bleeding Worlds. Shameless self-plug. The fourth and final book comes out May 31st. Decided to start this podcast because it struck me there were conversations we could have about light novels that I really just couldn't do on my light novel channel. And this seemed like a really great way to get other people involved in the conversation. So there's a cast of 8 of us in total that are going to be involved with this podcast. Each episode will have a variation in cast. It's going to be based on what we've read, what kind of topics we're interested in. But tonight on this episode, we are going to be introducing all of ourselves. So we're splitting this episode into 2 parts because we spread from Canada, US, Germany, and New Zealand, so it was kind of difficult to get everybody here at once. So we have about half of the group in the first half and then the second in the second half. So with all of that said, let's just get going with it. So first up, we've got Flies. Take it away, man.
Okay, so I started watching anime back in 2011, at the end of 2011, and I really didn't get into what anime is based off of. I was just seemed like sort of a random hobby that I picked up, and I believe the first series that really connected with me was when I watched it was Spice and Wolf, which is a series I fell in love with. And I'm sure if anyone who's watched Spice and Wolf, you know the cliffhanger ending. There is no ending to the show, so as soon as I watched that, I was like, I have to find out what happens next. And that's when I discovered light novels. And luckily, Spice and Wolf is one of the earliest and most long-running English published light novels available in the United States, in North America. So I believe there were 12 volumes out by the time I found out about it. I pretty much bought all 12 volumes and marathoned all 12 of them in I think within 1 month, and it was and I never used to really be into reading because I only read I that you were assigned in English class or whatever in high school, and I never found it really interesting. But I found reading these books I loved all the characters, I loved all the the writing style was easy to follow, and after catching up with Spice and Wolf, I was like, there's got to be more series like this. So then I was I don't ever go to a bookstore, so I was so unaware when I go into a Barnes & Noble, I see so many different series were published, and I just started picking up left and right all the series, and I've spent my fair share of money that I shouldn't be spending since I'm a poor college student, collecting all these books to read, and it seems like I keep falling behind on all these series because I just keep picking more up and up.
I think that's kind of the story of all of our lives.
Yeah.
So, Phillip, you're up next. How about you tell everybody who you are?
Yeah, I'm Phillip, just like you said before. I'm 22 years old and I'm from Germany. And, well, in my free time, I obviously read light novels. But I also game, I listen to a lot of music, go to concerts, watch anime, read visual novels, or play visual novels, I guess. Read normal novels. I like traveling a lot. And actually, I think I got into light novels because of No Game No Life. It's kind of the same story as with Flies. It ended on quite a cliffhanger, and I just wasn't satisfied. And so I read the light novel, and especially volume 6 got me hooked, and I read more and more. And basically, that's it.
Yeah, I think that's the story of a lot of people who've gotten into light novels. It all starts with an anime that you really enjoyed, and then all of a sudden it just ended.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I should probably also add I'm 22 and I'm from the U.S. just in case.
Okay.
All right, so JL, how about you introduce yourself to everybody?
Well, my name is Jean-Luc, JL for short. I'm from Montreal in Canada. I've always been a fan of Japanese stuff. Like, I remember watching anime as a kid. Like, 5 years old, I was watching Grandizer and other stuff on TV. I kind of stick to that as I grew older. Eventually, I watched Dragon Ball like almost everyone else. And eventually, I went to watch anime on VHS that we got from Chinatown. Eventually, as the internet grew, I kind of got into, well, all of the mainstream stuff. Basically, as everyone else said, well, when anime series ended on a cliffhanger and there was nothing else afterward, well, kind of looked to light novel and manga for a continuation of the story. Also, as I think Flies just said, I haven't been much of a reader before. In high school, I never really paid any attention to a classical or a cultural book. I did read a lot of technical and scientific stuff for college and university, but it's really when I started to read in like early 2000 light novel that it really got me back into well, reading in general. I really find that well, light novel is exotic experience, and well, think we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
We will, yes.
Yeah, and well, to I said I was going to keep it short, but yeah, as you might have noticed, I like to talk and ramble about a lot of stuff. I did a lot of university studies, so like analysis and research are one of my strong points. So like to those listening, you can expect some good analysis of like anime and light novels stuff.
Now, you also spent time in Japan, did you not?
Yes. Well, as part of my first bachelor in East Asian study, I did spend 1 year in Japan while studying Japanese language, culture, history. So I have a lot to talk about in terms of where light novel get their inspiration from. Other than that, well, I've also went to study in Switzerland. Also, I travel a lot, so yeah, lots of good stuff that I can talk about that winds up getting inside light novel. So
I feel like the most boring person here right now. Like, I'm just thinking to
Well-
myself, I don't go anywhere. I don't really know that much.
Well, if you want me to add even more, well, I'm a really creative person. I do I'm not a real good drawer. I don't draw like not that good. But
What, man? Are you just trying to pour salt in my wounds? Like, just telling everybody how multi-talented you are? Jeez.
But yeah, like I said, I tried drawing manga a long time ago. Not really my strength, but
No.
I have a creative and artistic mind. I'm really good with colors. So right now, what I'm doing is basically building anime style garage kit or model kit.
Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. You mean like the models. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Well, that's cool.
So I have my part of artistic taste and creativity to bring along for the ride.
Nice.
So,
All right, well, and then Terrence.
All right, so yeah, I'll just go back a little bit to sort of when I started really getting involved with like Japanese media in general. So I'd say it was probably, I think it was like '06. It was when a video game actually came out. I was looking to get a game at the store, and I was looking at Red Dead Redemption, and I was looking on a forum called NeoGAF at the time, and Red Dead Redemption was like one of the big games at the top. Everybody was talking about it, so I wanted to try it out. Obviously, a Western game, but then below it, I saw there was this other game, 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors, and it also had like a forum title that was like Red Dead something. So I was just curious about it. I was like, oh, they were doing like a punny title. I just wanted to know like what it was, and like I saw there were so many posts on it, and I was like, I'll just blind buy it. I'll grab it with the other game, and I got it, and it was it's basically a visual novel. It's a really mystery-oriented visual novel, and I really loved that. Like I loved like figuring out and solving the mystery, and then finding out all the twists and turns. So I ended up seeking that out in other media, and I feel like the Japanese media, it definitely does twists and turns and sort of playing on expectations and stereotypes of certain characters, sort of making you, lull you into a false sense of security, like, oh, I know this character, I know this archetype, and then it's like, oh, no, you don't. so I sought that out, so probably in like '08, I think it was '08, somewhere around there, Attack on Titan came out, and some of those other shows. I watched Full Metal Alchemist, and just, I really liked that kind of storytelling where it was, there was some intrigue and some mystery combined with like the shonen stuff. And then later on, I got up to, watch other stuff, and I got to like comedies like Part-Timer, and I think that was the one where I was like, I want to know if Chiho and Mao end up together. So I was like, all right, I need to get the books, So that was the one where I was like, all right, I need to see where this goes. So that was the first one, and then I think I picked up a few more over the years, and it was just it started obviously as I want to know what's going to happen, like a lot of you guys, and then it just grew into something where I really like this genre. For me, I try to pick stuff that maybe doesn't have like an adaptation in general, just because I like to support stuff that's kind of unique and interesting, and I want to avoid the spoilers. So that's kind of my range. That's why I mostly go with the J Novel Club stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because J Novel Club, it's funny how a lot of their stuff came out and now is getting an anime announcement, but there wasn't one before they got released.
Yeah, just really Grimgar and Occultic 9.
Yeah.
But even Occultic 9, it was being adapted like right with the anime, so it was interesting. Yeah.
Well, even Grimgar only adapted, say, the first 2 volumes of the light novel series, so it wasn't like it was that far ahead of the light novels either.
Yeah, it only covered the first 2, yep.
So, one of the goals, of course, this being the first episode, is to try and introduce what light novels are to any new listeners or people who maybe aren't familiar exactly with what light novels are. Do our own little debate on certain topics as well. And like you said, it's a really big thing that drives a lot of people into light novels, as that whole, like, we all pretty much said it, even for me. Excel World was one of the first yen-on titles that I saw, and I thought, I remember this anime, and it just never ended, because what happened next? And No Game, No Life was the same thing, and another one of you mentioned that as well. So yeah, I think it's the one thing that gets a lot of people into light novels to start, is that whole, oh, I really love this anime, but the ending just kind of blows. Like, what happens next? Is this just shoddy workmanship, or is there something more somewhere else? It's interesting. I mean, obviously manga is still one of the largest sources of adaptation material, but as light novels become a larger source, it seems like it's really what's propelling this whole thing forward. Because when I started my YouTube channel, even just 3.5, 4 years ago, there were hardly any titles compared to what we have right now. Like Flyz was saying, for the past couple years, really, you had Spice and Wolf, Haruhi, Book Girl, Kieli, like a couple of titles that aren't even on people's radars anymore. But there certainly wasn't anything like what we're getting now, where we're getting, 25 titles released in a single month. So let's just start talking a little bit, and we'll try and free for all this. We'll do our best not to jump all over each other. But let's start talking about light novels in general. So, and we can discuss this. So, what is a light novel? What do you guys think of as, what are you thinking of when you say this is a light novel?
What I think of when I think of light novel is a fictional story that is aimed at a young adult demographic, usually including anime-like illustrations, and with an average page word count of around, like, say, 40 to 50,000 words. I'd say is more of a light novel style. Though there are exceptions to the rule, which I'm sure which we'll discuss. But on average, at least for like English releases, most light novel volumes range between like 180 to like 220 or so pages each.
Yeah,
I'd say.
usually around 300 is the upper limits, except for some. I'm looking at you, Saga of Tanya the Evil.
or like Danmachi Volume 8, which is just a side story volume and is already almost like 400 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that was, yeah. So let's just kind of get into maybe a debatable topic. In order to be classed as a light novel, does the book have to be written in Japan?
Well, I can answer that as my point of view of a light novel is basically a more academic one. Well, for me, light novel is, well, a Japanese mass market product made by Japanese, for Japanese, in Japanese. So it's really a, well, Japanese thing. And from there, like it caters to a younger audience, and it's made in structured in a format where you have these smaller section that gives you time to read one section when you're commuting to work or school. So that's about my understanding of the thing. From there, it doesn't stop any of us from being attracted to that media at all. But I think that for non-Japanese fan, the well, attraction, if I say so, for lack of better word, what we find interesting in light novel as a more exotic side to it.
But I think, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter if it's Japanese or not, since I think if, for example, a US person writes the same novel as a Japanese person, it's basically the same novel. So I would think that if it has the characteristics of a light novel, then it's basically the same.
Well, yes
it's
and
basically,
no.
It's basically like anime. Like everyone knows anime originates from Japan, but like there are some cartoons from other countries that imitate anime and are as close to anime as you can possibly get without it actually being made and produced in Japan. And I'd say while light novel, the theory of a light novel has originated from Japanese writing culture, I feel like it's evolved into more of like just a writing style or a writing demographic that I think other places can replicate if they wanted to.
Yeah, like there's even, Chinese web novels. We can get into web novels too, but like there's a big scene of like light novels that aren't light novels. They're not Japanese light novels. Across the world, in like the web novel scene, they kind of do the same thing where it's, shorter sections, serialized, and, it's kind of, obviously they were inspired, I think, by the Japanese light novels, and the web novels and Seo Seito and stuff like that. But yeah.
So another thing I want to add is maybe for me it's a little bit more obvious since I studied Japanese culture and everything, but in not just light novel, but Japanese storytelling in a general, well, you have a lot of exaggeration going on over there. But past that, there's a lot of reference and criticism of modern society and, well, stuff that you find in Japan. So it for me, it really talks to a Japanese audience. Not that it cannot talk in another way to other audience, but it's like the main focus, I think, when creating a light novel in Japan is toward a specific audience. And that's what shape the story, in my opinion.
Well, I think the anime comparison is a really good one, right? Like Flies was bringing up, I'm thinking Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's probably one of the most famous ones. In fact, my dog's even named after the flying bison in that show. But thinking about that show, and it's an excellent show. And structurally, it's really similar to anime. I mean, it's got that sort of large arc as opposed to being very episodic like a lot of Western animation is. But there's still that sense that it's not anime. You know what I mean? It's not even just the art style per se. And I think that's probably where you're trying to get to there, JL. I think it's that idea that, just because something is like a light novel, does that necessarily mean it is a light novel?
Yeah, if I can just talk for a second, I was just thinking, like I personally wouldn't go out of my way to consume any of those other pieces of media. Like I might, on the off chance, I'm like, I'll try it out, but I definitely wouldn't go out of my way to consume something that was a light novel, not by Japanese media. And maybe it's a fear of it being bad, but I don't know. I just personally wouldn't go out of my way to consume like an English light novel. I don't know how other people feel.
But what would be if a friend of yours recommends a light novel that is not produced in Japan, and he tells you it's really good? Would you still read it, or would you not read it?
I suppose it would. Yeah, it would just depend on if they can convince me. If like let's say like I said, I love like plot twists. I love things where you don't know which character is going to live. If they could convince me that it's a really good story that kind of goes with those kind of elements that I'm looking for, then maybe.
But then I guess the question becomes, are you reading it in that case because it's a light novel, or are you just reading it because it sounds like a good book?
Yeah, I suppose that's another argument, yeah. Because, like, if they just say, oh, Chinese novels in general are very good, that's not going to make me, go out and run out and try all the Chinese novels out there. Like, they're going to have to convince me that, like, a particular one has a particular story that I want. Yeah,
right.
I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't read it just because it's like a light novel. It's got to be more than that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure none of us would just read a story just because it's in a light novel format either. Like someone could be like, oh, you want to read the story? It's a light novel. Okay, but it is a good light novel. Like, it didn't answer that question.
Well, if it was written in Japan and it was released by one of the light novel publishers, this idiot in this chair would probably pick it up. I mean, at least read one volume of it.
Well,
that's true.
At least I could say it's a business expense or something.
Like a vending machine. If I see that cover and I'm like, I've got to get this. I haven't read anything about it. I got to get it.
I'm actually looking at it on my desk right now. The review will probably be up in about another week or two.
It's funny because over the years I've run into these series throughout just like looking over the internet, and I would look at these series on like articles and I'd be like, this sounds like the stupidest concept I've ever heard of. Like, what drug was this guy smoking when he came up with the idea? And then it's getting published in English now, and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta get the day it comes out. I want to see how it is.
Wasn't there some guy that got reincarnated as a hot spring?
Yes, yeah.
I believe there is a series also where a guy levels up just by breathing.
Yeah, I heard about that one too, but there's another one where it's a little bit different, but the guy actually is reincarnated as a sword. But somebody was telling me the story's more about the girl who wields him, but there's still an element, there's still that element that he came back as a sword, right?
Like, does he like monologue? I guess.
I couldn't even begin to tell you, but I think I kind of have to wonder. So there's is obviously kind of a bias there. I mean, for myself, and trust me, I don't want to be a jerk. I don't want to take a dump on anybody who writes a book that is in English that is light novel-esque. I mean, God, I want to write some of that myself, but I would pick up a Japanese light novel because it's a light novel to try it, if it was getting translated in English. But I wouldn't be in the same hurry to pick up a English novel just because someone told me it was like a light novel. It's kind of like the same thing we were talking about with anime. I'm not going to run out and watch a North American cartoon because somebody says to me, "Oh, it's just like anime." I'm not going to necessarily watch that. But if somebody says to me, "Oh, this is a really amazing anime," then I'll probably check it out.
Yeah, I think too, like basically if the art is good too, I feel like that's another reason to go out and get like a novel. Maybe you've never really heard of it, but you see the cover and it's got really good art. I feel like a lot of the English novels that I've seen, like they don't really, catch me, in terms of the art. And again, that could change. I feel like there's more artists out there doing, manga type stuff.
Right.
Maybe there'll be more people who will come out with stuff that is just like really the cover grabs you. And I feel like none of the stuff I've seen has really grabbed me like that.
Is that the theory of illustrations sell light novels?
Well, they do it, right? I mean, I talked about it on that other podcast about how that was one of the ways that they marketed them in Japan initially, was they hired famous mangakas to do the artwork for them, right, to try and sell the book to fans of that particular manga artists. And they'd say, "Hey, like, pick up this book because he's got like, there's 12 original illustrations plus the cover." So, I mean, obviously, yeah, I think kind of the question that I get to that is, is there a style of light novel? Like, is there a light novel when we talk about light novels? Is it a genre? Is it a style? Is it a hybrid of all of those things? Like, I think that's kind of the thing that I have a hard time trying to explain to people, right?
Well, I don't think that it's a genre in itself. It's more like any other medium, like anime or manga or comics. So it's a medium in and of itself, and it includes different genre. But I don't, in my opinion, I don't think that it should be classified as a genre.
Right.
I definitely have to agree. I think it does have specific stylistics. It's often a lot of dialogue in comparison to other novels. It's often sounds and expressions are often brought over completely different. Like I can bring an example. There are a lot of sounds that happen. A novel would describe the sound, and the light novel would, for example, just play the sound or write the sound.
Right.
And I think it's just a stylistic difference to a novel.
And I feel like light novels have a lot more dialogue heavy. At least most of them seem to be.
Definitely, yeah.
Right. And then of course there's that whole long story arcs aspect of it.
Oh yeah.
Like the purpose of light novels is like it's supposed to be like in Japan it's supposed to be something that you just pick up at the convenience store, and it's a quick read, and then you finish it, and then you wait for the next issue, like you wait for like a comic book or whatever. And it's the same sort of thing. It's just more words than pictures.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that you could maybe define light novel as a writing style.
Right. So we've already talked about the fact that they're very dialogue heavy. So a lot of the action is done through characters talking per se. I mean, not to say that there isn't lots of good action in light novels too, but there's a lot of dialogue. The fact that they are very volume based, so different arcs over numerous volumes in the same storyline, And, and again, like, we can continue arguing about whether it has to be originating in Japan to be a light novel, but certainly we can say that there are, whether we call them light novels or not, like Phillip was pointing out, and there are certainly authors in other languages that are doing books that, are virtually light novels in terms of their style and the feel of them. But I think JL brings up a good point too, is that whole idea of in Japan, like you're writing books for a Japanese audience. I even remember hearing about video game producers in Japan and how they had to change their mindset because they felt that they were making their video games, they had to make them more of a global experience because initially they were Japanese games for Japanese fans made in Japan, right? And I kind of wonder how much of an influence that now global market is having on light novel authors, or whether they're still just writing for people in Japan. Maybe we can find one and ask them.
But I think the sale numbers in the Western region are not as big yet that they would influence the market really. I think in the game industry it's even a lot larger. If you see, for example, Monster Hunter World,
Right,
I
yeah.
think it sold a lot more in the West than in Japan.
Right.
I think with light novels, it's not the case yet.
No, yeah, no, you're right.
I would say the same.
I feel like in the West, it's a very hard sell to sell somebody on a light novel because pretty much we can all agree that the media doesn't know squat about anime for the most part, and then the people who are already watching anime, if they want to continue the story past where the anime ends, more than likely they're going to read the manga version, even if it's not the original source, just because it's a lot of illustrations and you can whiz through a chapter in like less than like a minute or two.
Yeah.
And light novels, like they see just a whole wall of text and they're like, I don't know if I want to read this. Like even if you try to hard sell them on it, like sometimes people just don't have the attention span, or like they just don't like reading like long stretches of dialogue.
Right. Do you think that's also because, like, obviously manga is a lot more mature market in North America now? I mean, we've had manga on our shelves or, several decades, whereas light novels, there was a little blip in the early 2000s when Tokyo Pop tried to bring out a couple, and then Tokyo Pop disappeared, and that kind of killed that. And then we had, like I said, maybe 3 or 4 titles that were put out under, they were put under, I think, like Little Brown and Company or something. I mean, Hachette, who owns Yen Press, put out most of them under one of their banners because there was no such thing as Yen On at the time.
Yeah, I think it was under I think Haruhi was under that brand, and then Yen Press published their light novels just under Yen Press, and then eventually when light novels got big enough, like when
They created
Sora,
Yen On.
like Sora Online and all that's the big popular series started coming out, then they basically made their own division specifically for the light novels, making Yen On.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if part of that was just to try and make it clear which ones were manga and which ones were light novels, because they sometimes have the license for both of them.
Yeah, it's a little confusing sometimes, especially like once in a while I would like if I want to make sure like a bookstore has a light novel volume that I want without having to go all the way there just to find out they don't. I would like reserve the book, and when you reserve it, you would just write the title and then what volume or whatever it is. But if both versions are published, half the time I would get to the counter and they'd have the manga version. I'm like, no, this is the wrong version. You gotta get me the other one.
Yeah. So even in bookstores, like there's still that opinion that the first thing you're going to grab is the manga.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that kind of your experience with like the staff and stuff?
Not as much as it used to be before it got big.
Well, in my case, when light novel first came out in the bookstore, they were in the section of regular novels, and after a while, they just moved them to the manga section.
Right. Now, I'm Canadian as well. I don't think I said that earlier, but so GL, where were you going to, like, say, a Chapters, or was that like a small store?
Oh, it's Indigo.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's sort of the superstore. Yeah, I noticed that too for a long time. They were putting either the books in normal fiction or under their science fiction fantasy header,
Yeah.
and then you're right. Now it seems to have all been folded into manga. I guess they kind of figure that it's a similar audience, which I mean, arguably, Flies brings up a good point. Like a lot more people seem that they are fans of anime seem to gravitate more towards the manga. And I mean, I did say that maybe that's because manga is more of a mature market, but do you think it's also because it's a visual medium, also complementing a visual medium?
I think so. I think that, well, if I look at my friend, they don't read light novel because it involve a tedious thing called reading. And
Yeah.
And like manga, well, it's a lot easier. Like you have less text, and even if you don't want to read everything, you still have picture to tell you what's going on. So I think that it's mostly a fact that manga is easier to follow and get into than a regular novel or novel.
Do you think it's also because there's more visual fan service in manga?
Well, could be.
Going off on a tangent here.
It could be. I don't. I didn't read any research paper on that, but yeah, it's an interesting subject. Yeah.
I can easily
But
say I bought the first 5 volumes of Citrus the manga just based off the cover art. No shame. I didn't know what the series was about. I was like, oh, this could be total trash, but hey, the girls look cute. I think I'm gonna pick this up.
Well, I think, and there you go, right? And you even mentioned earlier, and I know Terrence was talking about that whole thing about the art on the cover. Like, it's funny, we're still that kind of visual aspect to it. Do you think that, like, I kind of sometimes wonder if light novels, maybe they get a bad rep because they have this really strong manga visual on the cover, and then when people open it up, they're like, oh, so many words. But I mean, now I obviously I don't read a lot of manga. I mean, not as much as I read light novels. Have you guys had a lot of experience reading like manga as well as light novels, like from the same series, I guess is what I'm getting at. So like, you've got Sword Art the manga, Sword Art the light novels, Sword Art the anime. Now, does the manga usually adapt most of the light novel, or does it usually like peter out the same as the anime does?
It
I
depends
think
on the
it
series.
depends. Yeah.
Like the Spice and Wolf. I don't collect a lot of the manga versions of novels that I already collect, but the few that I have gone, like I collect the Spice and Wolf manga, which I have I think 12 volumes of it. Like it started off like spending 3 whole manga volumes on just adapting what was in the first novel,
Right?
and then it does the same thing for volume 2, and then it just completely skips volumes at random times.
Okay.
So like volume 3, it's in the anime version in the second season, but there's no manga version of it. It just completely skips volume 3, and then it like skips volume 6, or like it adapts 6 into like 3 chapters or whatever, like. And like some other series I can't think of on the top of my head also kind of peter around. I think the Index manga skips a couple of arcs too. I think it like completely skips the second arc or something like that.
Okay, so then I mean, even so, maybe that's the thing that, doing this podcast and sort of introducing these topics of light novels and stuff. I think maybe that's something else that we need to make clear to people that, if you're in love with the story itself and you want to know every aspect of the story, even the manga isn't necessarily going to give that to you unless the manga was the source material to begin with.
Yeah, like that's what I like to say to people when like if I'm on an anime forum and they're like, "Oh, I got to check out the manga for this." But like I know the manga isn't the original and I know it skips details, and since the novel is the original source, if the anime does get another season, it's going to adapt from the novel. And if there's details that the manga completely skipped over that are in the next season, they're going to have no clue like where is this coming from? And I'm like, oh, you should have read the original. Like I know you don't like reading, but like if you want all the neat and gritty details of every scene and like all the characters' thoughts and everything, you have to read the original source.
Right. Right.
And well, I think that it's not something that's entirely related to well, not related, but entirely well, yeah, kind of lost my word over there, but yeah, I can't seem to find it, but like. In other words, it's something I was discussing with Phillip earlier on, so maybe he can help me on that. But it's I think it's not just something that's only found in light novel and anime adaptation. I think it's something that also exists in regular novel and movie. It's the difference in medium. When you pass from one to another, especially from a written format to a movie format, you lose a lot of introspection and a lot of detail. But also, if they were to adapt everything faithfully, you would drag on too much and it would be boring. Well, in my opinion.
Well, like I can see that because like in a movie you can only fit so much within like a certain time frame, but
Yeah.
at least like I can understand glossing over a few details, but at least getting those few details adapted, whereas as opposed to just completely skipping entire arcs of a story. Like
Yeah.
like
That's
I like
definitely true, yeah.
I wouldn't think like the Harry Potter series would decide like they have all the movies that adapt all the books. I don't think they would just skip like half of an entire volume in a movie, like just to save time. Like because I feel like that would be like an integral part of the story that's completely missing.
That's definitely true. There are some series where there's, well, a lot of stuff skipped. I think, well, it's always the case with written stuff. If you have, for example, 400 pages, you can't put that everything in a 2-hour movie, or with an anime series as well. So even if you don't skip stuff, I think, yeah, it's like JL said. I mean, it would be boring to watch it all, but I kind of want to know it all. So, well, that's why the light novel is often preferred by us.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's trying to get across the message to people to understand that, I mean, the whole thing, right? The book was better.
Definitely.
Though there are some cases in anime where I could actually say the anime adaptation ends up surpassing the novel version.
Yeah, me too.
Surpassing the what? The manga or the light novel?
The light novel is surpassed by the anime version.
Okay, what case?
Sound Euphonium. Has anyone else read the first volume of Sound
I've
Euphonium?
I've read volume 1.
Yeah, but I haven't seen the anime.
Yeah, only
but
the first
I nev-
volume was.
I've never seen the
Yeah,
anime.
well-
But actually, it makes a lot of sense, right? If it's Sound Euphonium, I haven't read it or watched it, but well, it has to do something with music, and well, a light novel can't really play music.
Well, it's not even so much about the music. It's more
Okay.
like because Sound Euphonium has like that music setting and like that's like the genre
Mhm.
it sort of plays in, but it's mostly carried by its characters.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the book kind of just like skips around a lot because
Yeah.
The book
the
also
the first season of the whole show only adapts the first book, and the show's by Kyoto Animation, and they're really well known for taking source material and pretty much disregarding it and like taking some simple details from it, but then adding in a lot of their own original ideas, and I feel like they did a superb job with it.
Yeah, the only thing I'll just add, a minor thing. I think the book had like a Beatles song in it, but obviously they couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they could
Yeah,
get the copyright for that for the anime.
Yeah, that's the only thing that the book has above it. It doesn't have that
Well-
Beatles song.
I think it's a similar thing to Ready Player One. A lot of stuff they
Oh,
couldn't adapt from the original novel because of copyright reason.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's why that movie was packed with Warner Brothers stuff. So JL, you said that you thought so too. Which series do you think that about?
Well, on the top of my head, I can't really find one that's surpassed per se the light novel or the manga version. I know I had some, but if I go on equal term, for me, Saga of Tanya, the Evil, both
Oh yeah.
the light novel and the anime had a different take on the story, and both were equally good.
Okay.
So it's so in that case, it's not like the anime failed to reach up to the light novel height. I think they both were different in their own way, and both were really good in their own way as well. The anime is focused a little bit more on the action and a little bit more on the visual effect. So you have a lot of reference visually to like World War One era, and you have a lot of visual candy over there.
Right.
So and in the light novel, well, you have this not political but business undertone. Like when all of the gods meet together, it's like business council. Like they're talking about what they're gonna do with like well religious faith, and it's kind of falling short, and they are kind of viewing faith as a business product.
Right.
So there's all this business undertone that's not in the anime that makes the charm of the light novel, in my opinion. And also well, you have all of the technical and more military aspect that's more represented in the book in itself. But as I said, both for me, both versions were equally good, and I think it's a little bit rare these days with light novel or manga adaptation.
No, I think you're right. Actually, that's actually a really good point. I know when I reviewed the first volume of Saga of Tanya, that was exactly what a lot of people came forward with. You know, that the anime took advantage of the parts of the book that would work best. And I think somebody else was saying that, like that whole medium thing, right? Anime is a visual medium. So it took a really heavy advantage of the visuals, whereas the book, being the medium it is, it was able to get more into those technical and political and business aspects of things that probably wouldn't have been too fun to watch on an anime. I mean, let's face it, you know, a bunch of people sit around a table grousing at each other over why they should promote some crazy young girl or not. I mean, it would probably get a little boring after a while.
That's definitely true, yeah.
Well, I feel like the one of the bigger criticisms of the anime, which I feel is a little unfair, is that they changed the art style completely. Like if you look at the Tanya illustrations, there's like the cover art and like the illustrations are so detailed and like beautiful to look at. But then you look at the anime version, and like you're like, what happened? But like I feel like people like had way too high expectations because the animation for the anime is actually pretty good, and if they tried to give the characters the level of detail in their designs as much as the novel and tried to animate them, I think it would have been like a train wreck. It would have been a terrible experience.
Yeah,
for
well,
them.
it's also a question of budget, because animating something as well complex as the light novel visual is it would have taken too much money from the budget.
Yeah, well,
And
I mean,
in case anyone
absolutely.
doesn't know, Tanya's anime was actually the very first anime by Studio Nut, which is like a bunch of people who came from Studio Madhouse and created their own studio. So that was their very first anime ever as a studio, and
Oh.
I heard it sold really well. It did really well in Japan.
Well, I mean, again, right? Like, I think that's a whole other topic for another show. But, you know, I think definitely there is that question of should anime be a literal adaptation, or, like you said, with Saga of Tanya the Evil, I mean, a lot of people that I've seen that they may love the book, but they don't hate the anime because they acknowledge that the anime is doing something a bit different with the material, even though it's still staying true to the sense of the material, right? I think it's that same thing that people argue with,
Yeah.
like, say, the Lord of the Rings movies. You know, you've got a cool looking movie. Are they the book? Well, no, but they're still great movies. Well, I guess that's personal taste.
They're definitely popular.
Well, they did well, right?
Yep. But I think, I mean, it's similar thing with the No Game No Life novel, for example. I think there was the chess scene, if anyone remembers it.
Yep.
I think in the light novel it was just a small chess game on a table, and in the anime it was the epic big chess game where the pieces are bigger than yourself, and it's just complete stylistic difference.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how they depicted that in the book. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was just a board in front of them, that it wasn't necessarily like a life-size battle going on.
Yeah, I think it really was just a board, and was a lot less epic.
Like, definitely there's things that work better in that visual aspect, and or that they make bigger and better because it is visual, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. So I think, I mean, at this point, like, we know we should probably start to wrap this up, just because we could probably go on for ages, and this podcast one, will be 7 hours long, and nobody will ever want to listen to us again. Like, oh, you know that light novel podcast? Oh yeah, you mean the one that's longer than it would take me to read an entire novel? So I think, like, I mean, just really quickly, let's kind of wrap this up. So each of you try to think of something that, maybe there'll be some overlap, but each of you try to think of something that, do you kind of wish that people knew about light novels that you feel that they don't? And I mean, this could be people that are completely ignorant of all of this stuff, or, even people that are anime fans, but may not know, or manga fans, or they may not know light novels. We'll just kind of go down the list. Flies, what do you think?
Don't judge a book by its cover, because while most series like to have all their covers have the female characters looking cutesy and everything, just because it looks cute doesn't mean the actual story is like something to like gloss over. Because like I'm sure nobody who like someone who's never watched anime or known anything about it, if they looked at the first volume cover of like ReZero, they wouldn't be like, oh, that looks like a really dark and gripping thriller series. I definitely want to read that. But like I'd say for someone who isn't that big into the light novel genre or hasn't really gone into it at all, give it a try. Like you'll never know until you try it.
Fair enough. Awesome. Philip, what do you think?
What I want people to know is that light novels are good, are often better than the anime, and have a lot more, material. You have a lot more about the characters, about everything, about the story, and I think they are great, and they are deeper and better, in my opinion.
All right, JL.
So Flies kind of stole my line, but
Sorry about that.
yeah. Well, I'll go with a different line, something similar. So don't judge a book by its title.
Oh, yes.
And
By the extremely long title.
Danmachi. Is it wrong to try to pick up girl in a dungeon?
Yep.
Sincerely, I would have never picked that up. I was scared of the title, but I kind of went on to watch the anime anyway because I had nothing else to watch at the time. And then I found that the title isn't really representative of what's going on inside. It's totally different. So, so same thing. Like what I would say is that don't judge a book by its title. Give it a chance. And why not? Go watch some reviews of the book to give you an idea and start to read.
I think that's a very good point too. Yes, excellent. All right, Terrence.
Sure. So I guess I'll just say, if you're, looking at light novels and maybe you've been reading a genre that you love, maybe try to step outside of your comfort zone every once in a while. And if you can, definitely look on, resources like Bookwalker to see what's not out in English, stuff that you would want to get in English. You can go on Bookwalker, JP. You can find stuff that maybe you didn't know about, and maybe you want to ask some of these publishers about. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Ask for more.
Yes.
Get more.
Because we all need more series to pick up.
Because we are all because we're not bankrupt enough.
Yeah,
get more.
I feel like most of the time I'm looking at what's not out instead of actually reading the books I already own.
I'm looking at my pile of like 20 unread books that I've paid money for, and I'm like, get more. Yeah, well, I'm always up for more. Get more. All right, awesome. Okay, so like I said, this is only part 1 of the podcast. There's a whole group of another 3 people to add on to this on the second half. And we've already been talking, I think, for about an hour or so. So we'll have to shoo them along too. So yeah, I think you know what? I think you've all brought up some really excellent points, and stuff that we'll dig deeper on into in later shows. Things about artwork, how that's used to sell or maybe even manipulate people. Titles, yeah, like what is with light novel titles anyway? I'd love to deep dive a little further on some of the cultural ideas about why some of these titles have to be so long. Like, why? But yeah, all right. So thank you guys for joining me in this half. And again, if you are a listener listening to this, I'll be back, well, literally seconds with another group of people. But, these are the voices that you're going to be hearing over the coming future of the Light Novel Podcast as we get a deep dive onto certain series and hopefully get some people from the industry that can come and answer our questions and tell us all about what they do and why they do it. So thanks very much, guys, and we will talk to some of you in the next show. For you listeners, I'll be back in just a second or two with more people. Hi, everybody. So we are back with our second group, the rest of the contributors to the Light Novel Podcast. Going to do a little bit of intros, and then we're going to chat on this side of things as well. So let's start off with Bio. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, my local drones. I am BioGundam, and I'm just here to contribute myself to this podcast. And basically, why I'm here is essentially I saw that Justus R was asking for a co-host, and I thought, why the fuck not? Why not, participate in something? And eventually, I came here. I enjoy light novels, anime, manga, video games. I also enjoy studying philosophy, religion, war history. I also like talking about weapons, martial arts, and crime.
All right. Nice. And we'll move along to Kyle.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kyle Castorena. I've been in the anime game, just generally overall, since the late 80s, as far back as Akira when it was first released in the U.S. I got into light novels a bit later, I'd say. The first ones I really got into were Slayers, Vampire Hunter D, Full Metal Panic, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I read the entire Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya series in a single weekend, or at least as far as had been released. And I just couldn't stop.
All right, cool. And finally, Tom.
Hello, I'm Tom. I got into light novels a few years ago, back right before Yen Press started releasing Sword Art Online and the like. I had really liked the anime for Baka and Test, and so I wanted to have more of it, and so I began to read the light novels, and my obsession with them has just grown, and now I own most of what Yen On has put out.
All right, cool. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to change things up a little bit because I was thinking about this, and to people listening to this, in our time, it's been almost a day and a half since we talked to the first group, and to your time, it's only been like 30 seconds, if that. But but I was thinking about this since talking to them. One of the themes that seemed to come up a lot, and I don't know if you guys feel the same, but was this idea that a number of them said that they weren't really into reading per se, like they weren't like bookish people, and yet when they picked up light novels, there was something that really kind of spoke to them and really got them into reading light novels. And I kind of wondered if you guys sort of had the same experience.
How I got into like anime and manga and light novels, like hardcore as I got into them, is a pretty like dark story, and I will save that for later. But just to like basically to like paraphrase, I was always like a bookworm, when I was a little kid, because I was kind of like an introvert outsider, and I had Asperger's, and people treated me differently, and and basically, and I was treated like a second class citizen. So essentially, like during my teenage years, like this is fast forwarding quite a bit, I'd always been a bookish person. And essentially, I got into anime and light novels because let's just say that I was in a dark time during my life. Let's just say that I was in a very dark place, and anime, manga, and light novels were kind of the thing that helped get me going. And if anyone is familiar with the Legion of Anime Addicts, you've probably heard this story before, but in more detail. But I don't really feel like telling that story twice. So essentially, like, I got into anime, manga, and light novels from a really dark place, and I just kind of just invested it in so hardcorely, and I basically took it so much to the extreme that now I'm reviewing them now and got my own YouTube channel, and I talk to other people about anime and manga and etc. And now I'm also doing this podcast, so, that's all I have to say for now.
All right.
Well, I was a happy kid with a normal childhood. I would say that I was also pretty much a bookworm. I read pretty much since the age of 3, whatever I can get my hands on. From Doom, Stephen King, Phantom Tollbooth. I could just go on and on, just speaking about whatever random book I happened to pick up at the time. But, I mean, anime light novels, they're fun reads. You can get through them pretty quickly. At least not spend 2-3 months reading Les Miserables. So, yeah, that's also a plus.
Fair enough.
So it seems like Kyle and Bio were huge book nerds even before they got into light novels, but I am the exact opposite. I got into light novels, like I said, after becoming obsessed with Baka and Test, and then I started getting more light novels, and then that just kind of expanded, and now I just buy bunches of books.
So then what do you think, you know what, I was a bit of a reader as well, but, what do you guys think though? Like, obviously, whether even if you are an experienced reader, if you're a bookish person, I kind of wanted to pick your brains a little bit. Like, what is it about light novels then that, whether you're a reader or not, what is it that really appeals? What is it that kind of grabbed you and made you go like, you know what, I could read Stephen King, I could read this other stuff, but you know what? I'm actually going to read like 50 volumes of a certain magical index or whatever, right? Like, what kind of things, like, what are the things about light novels that have really driven you guys to them?
I think for me personally, it was like just the aesthetic, because I got into anime through Full Metal Alchemist, and I was completely blown away. It was like, holy shit, a cartoon can do all of this. And eventually I just explored and dived more into the rabbit hole of the medium, and I now prefer anime because I just like the aesthetics, and I like the characters, and I like all the conflicts, because anime, light novels and manga, originally was a medium that didn't, that wasn't constrained by the boundaries of, say, like in the West, where we're going through the PC era and everything has to be safe space and bathrooms and shit. But when like with anime, manga, and light novels, there's not that restriction there. You can talk about whatever you want If you want to talk about a story about someone, coming from absolute nothing and becoming a king, you can talk about that. If you want to talk about rape or murder or stuff like that, you can do that in the medium, because there's a higher threshold of tolerance. And I think it's just kind of like that pushing the envelope is what got me into it. But it was also like an aesthetic feel. Like, I just love it how it looks and feels to me. And yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that I've read has just blown me away, and some of the struggles that the characters go through, like, I can relate. Like, for example, Efueta, like, from World's Strong to Commonplace to World's Strongest, like, I really relate to the first volume, like, that life and death struggle of clinging and trying to cling to life no matter what, even though you're most likely going to die.
Yeah, that sense of, and even if it makes you a monster, it doesn't matter if you survive, right?
Yeah. Like, I've been through something similar to like that. Of course, I'll tell you what that is later on, but, I know exactly what it's like to be in that situation where you're just clinging to life and you have very low chances of surviving. And despite the odds, you live. And it was sort of those messages that sort of kept me going, those messages of, fighting against the impossible, by your sheer teeth and will, just climbing and keep going, and no matter how much you take or no matter how much you lose, just keep going and keep fighting for what you believe in.
Right. Life can be crap, but get your ass in the robot and save the universe, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that for now, so open up the discussion. I need to get water.
No problem.
So I think my answer would probably be, I believe that light novels, similar to what Bio said, I believe that light novels are less constricted because it's kind of like its own community in a sense, both in Japan and in the West.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about basically anything. I honestly doubt 100% that anything like My Youth Romantic Comedy Is Wrong As I Expected could come out of like normal young adult literature in the West. I honestly doubt it. Like, maybe some similarities could, but just that entire idea of a story and a series that's so fundamentally relatable to most teenagers, and especially the audience that is going to read this light novel. I don't think that could really happen in the West.
Fair enough. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, one of my favorite things about light novels is that the authors, they know their audience. I mean, they know who they're writing to. They know what kind of stories they want to hear. That's how you get things like Testament of the New Sister or Eromanga Sensei, which are, well, trash. And it's trash that we love.
It's the good type of trash.
Yeah. Yeah, they know what guilty pleasures we want to read about, and so, we find them there.
Now, do you think that's because they are the audience?
Oh, definitely. 100%.
Yeah.
It isn't a guilty pleasure if you don't feel guilt about reading it, so...
Well, do you feel guilt about reading it in public? That's
yes.
the question.
No. I've read Rosario Vampire manga at school.
I play Senran Kagura on the bus, so hey.
I've technically read No Game, No Life at school, but it was after school during a play where nobody was around the area I was.
Mine was during class because I had just finished working and I decided to crack, because usually when I finish my work I usually listen to music or read books, and I don't give a fuck. I'm just like,
Well, but if I remember, Rosario Vampire didn't have like the raciest covers ever. The interior obviously had its fair share of ecchi, but I mean, it wasn't quite high school DD.
Nothing is racy unless you reach that high school DxD or Shin Now Testament level.
Yeah, I still argue that's probably why we're not going to get those in English officially.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I think you guys are hitting on some really good points. Like, these are the kind of things that I was thinking. And I mean, I think it's one of the things that really spoke to me about, like, initially anime, like, I was a lot like Kyle, obviously, like he and I think are close in age. We were talking earlier, but, when I was a kid, of course, there were all sorts of different cartoons on TV, but things like, they were in English, they were called like Star Blazers, Robotech, Voltron. These were all series that I really liked, but I recognized that there was something about them that was really different than a lot of the other anime, like animated TV shows. And of course, as a kid, I didn't know what anime was. I mean, there was no internet or anything to tell me anyway. And the thing that I think I realize now, and I realize why it is I love the medium and why I enjoy light novels, is because of that sort of sequential storytelling. Because that, in both the, whether it be anime, whether it be light novels, there's that room for the story to tell a bigger story, because it's not like, well, you might get canceled tomorrow, so make sure every episode could be the last episode, or your book is only going to last for one book, so don't get into a big series and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I mean, look at like a Magical Certain Index. I mean, that thing is still going like 50 volumes strong, and that's not including side stories.
Yeah.
And for those of you new to light novels, that is not an exaggeration at all. It is almost 50 volumes long.
Oh god, there's what is it? Gian Saga over 100? Jeez.
Which one's that?
Yeah. Gwyn Saga.
I believe it. Yeah, Gian Saga.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the author died before he could finish writing it.
Oh,
that's how long it is.
Yeah, didn't other writers I feel like other writers added to the story after they died, or am I mistaken?
No, that's right. It didn't just drop off after he died. Other authors picked it up, tried to continue it, but that's just way too long.
Well, it's just like that. Yeah. That's similar to what they just did. There was, God, what is it called? Machen Maiden or something like that. It's just out as an anime right now. And that was sort of a similar thing where like the author plotted it, but then died before he could write it. And so the company that he published with basically took all of his notes and hired a writer to write the light novels based on his notes and based on his idea. Right?
Didn't the same thing happen to Zero no Tsukaima? Because I know
that's
that
exactly
the
what
author
I was
died.
thinking. The last 2 volumes, right?
Yeah, they actually are getting finished.
Yep.
Like because the author died before he finishes the last couple of volumes, so they're going to finish the story.
Yeah, I think the last one just came out a couple months ago, didn't it? Maybe.
I feel like it might have. I feel like it came out like a year ago, but
maybe
maybe
that's what I was thinking.
I don't know. Time flies when you're reading books.
Yeah, they are releasing new editions of it, titled under like Memorial Edition, which I think is a little touching.
Really?
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Are they putting tombstones on the covers?
No.
But doesn't that? I don't know. You know what? I mean, I guess I get. I don't know. In a way, I'm sitting there like you put that way, and I'm kind of like, wow, that's like a big money grab. But you know what? If it goes to his descendants or like his survivors, like his family and stuff, I'm all for it. If they benefit, then you know what? Have at it. I'm good with that.
I think his family actually wanted the story finished.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I mean, like there was what? How many volumes? Like 6, 7, or was it way more?
I think it was like 18.
Was it? I can't remember now. God, I
remember
it's like
22.
Wow,
it's like 10 plus.
It's
off. Like it was a pretty decent like series.
Yeah. That was what the familiar of Zero. I'm just
the one off the lolly and the dude who gets like the rune that gives him like magic weapon sword powers.
Yeah.
And and then there's Japanese fighter jets and American rocket launchers or bazookas.
Again, one of those series. Yeah, you're right. It was 22 volumes plus a side story.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And you know what? It sounded like a cool one. Like I was actually, it was one of those series I was kind of like, I wonder if we like would ever get that.
I feel like we technically got the English license to it, but never used it.
Did we?
Yeah.
I actually watched all the season of the anime, and I have to admit, like the ending part of the second season was awesome. Like the main character's like fighting against this giant army. There's like arrows everywhere. He's just like doing flips and sword slash. It's like Dynasty Warriors, and he's like ah! As like his friends like run away, and he keeps like he basically fights them like Dynasty Warriors style. It's awesome.
And you know what I think, and yeah, I mean, so I'm just taking a look here. I don't know how many. Let's see how many. Later decided by the publisher to continue the series in the author's absence, due in part to calls from fans to continue the series as well as if's family. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
His
Yep.
clan want money from fan base.
Well,
his
whatever,
family,
man.
That's
Writer, you dishonor clan. You die before you finish story. We finish
Yep.
it for you.
So yeah, so he published 20 volumes. Apparently he had planned to end it at 22, so I guess he probably had them plotted out. So
Yeah.
then they hired an author to finish it based on what
Yamaguchi
Yamaguchi
it was
had dictated.
revealed.
Yeah.
It was revealed in one of the in one of the extra books that came out after the series ended. The one titled Memorial. That one, inside of it, it reveals which author actually wrote the ending of the series, and I forget who it is. I think it might have been the person who wrote Blade Dance of the Elementalers.
Oh, really?
God, that show.
Well, I mean, but it does say that apparently he dictated the ending and everything, and like where he wanted the plot to go, and had left it for the editors before he died. So, I mean, it was just basically somebody fleshing it out, right, and finishing it up. So, I mean, that's,
I think all writers should at least do that, just in case like something bad happens. I mean, if you look at like Togashi or the writer of like Berserk, I mean, they take so many goddamn hiatuses that their work is never going to get finished. And I know that they'd rather do it themselves, but for God's sakes, just let someone else do it for you.
Well,
Like,
how about Sword Art Online Progressive? There's 6 volumes and they're only at floor 5, and there's another 70 floors to go.
Yep.
I think like the writer of like Sword Art is just going to dedicate his entire life to restoring what little reputation he has, and Progressive is like his magnum opus. I'm going to make Sword Art Online good. God damn it!
Well, you know what? It's not. I've got to read more of it. I've only read the first volume, but the first volume was like heads and shoulders above pretty much anything I had read in the main series up until that point.
Hey man, it was better than, oh yeah, by the way, I'm the final boss, lol, or, I'm the rape fairy, or, by the way, video games are important, lol, I'm Darth Gun. I mean, Gun Gao was basically Star Wars Online. Kirito is Kirito Skywalker. You've got Darth Vader, or Darth Gun.
One of the questions that I posed to the guys yesterday was, what is one thing that you would want to tell somebody who knows nothing about light novels? What would you want them to know about it? And you know what? Maybe I'll pose the question to you guys.
My answer would be, like, read good light novels first, and if you like what you see, then read the trash. Because you can't understand good shows until you watch good shows, and you can't understand bad shows until you watch bad shows. So it's the same thing with light novels. There's the good ones, there's the bad ones, and the ones that are kind of in the middle. And if you watch, read all of them, read all of them, you'll get a better understanding of the medium.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, personally, I find that sometimes it's better to start with the anime first, because most of these light novel adaptations, they're just promotions for the light novels, sad to say. But, you take a series that you like the anime, and then it all of a sudden ended. Then it's like, hey, I want more of this. Let's go into the light novel. And when you do go into the light novel, you realize, oh, man, this is a lot crazier than what they put on air.
And that's how I got into light novels.
Yep.
Why do you think I read High School DxD, the light novel?
Well, I think that's why. Well, and I mean, I think that's kind of a common theme. Like, I mean, it's certainly like talking to the guys yesterday, and you guys saying this now. Like, I think that's the common theme, right? Is that a lot of us, especially in English, in English predominant countries, or non-Japan countries, basically anybody other than Japan. I think that's how a lot
Japan
of us
matters to the light novel business. Like, if you're not Japanese, you don't matter.
Well, I think the thing is that we don't. It's because anime made it here first that all of us, like, anime is the gateway, right? Like, did you guys find? I mean, how much do you guys read manga?
I read a lot.
I have quite a few manga volumes on my shelf. I also read manga online, and I have light novels, and I've also got some light novels downloaded on my computer, and I watch anime online.
So, like, did you get into manga first then?
I got into anime first.
So anime first, then manga, and now light novels, right?
Yep.
Would you guys, Kyle and Tom, are you the same?
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, pretty much. Anime first, and I got into manga and light novels probably say about the exact same time. I just jumped from whoever had more of the story I could find.
Yeah.
Right. Because, I mean, for a long time, there was really nothing light novel. And I mean, I know you mentioned like Slayers and Final Panic or whatever. And those are series that died with Tokyo Pop, right? Like they never even finished in English, did they?
Nope.
They did not finish.
Yeah. Oh, Tokyo Pop. How you ruined so much for us.
Ironic that Tokyo Pop burst with the financial bubble.
Yeah, well, it's true.
A moment of silence for Tokyo Pop.
Tokyo popped.
Tokyo Pop went pop. But they're back, though. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, but they're not doing anything that interests me.
Well, I don't think they're doing much of anything that interests much of anybody.
I mean, Tokyo Pop back in the day was pretty decent. I mean, they did the Devil May Cry light novels. They did Great Teacher Onizuka. I mean, if you watch the anime, it's pretty great, and the manga is just kick-ass.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, like, and this is where it's kind of a weird thing, right? Like, I mean, this is how the landscape has changed so much, because I remember, initial anime releases in North America. I mean, AD Vision was like the company. They held like Evangelion and so many others, and they're gone. Manga Corpse, they had a whole bunch of stuff in English in North America. They've basically disappeared from the North American market. And same thing like you were saying, like Tokyo Pop. I mean, Tokyo Pop was one of the very first companies to actually release the full like bunko or tankobon versions of like collected volumes, right? Like before that, I remember buying the Evangelion manga in individual North American comic-sized comic books. They would only issue one chapter at a time. You want to talk about milking your pocketbook.
Yep.
Oh, man, that must be rough.
And now I can read it online for free because the free market dictates that, it's a better deal for me.
Wow. Bio, I think you're going to be like the controversial one in this podcast.
Yup.
This is why you hired me, and you're paying me 20 Canado an hour.
I'm paying you in entertainment, man. I got no money to give you. Come on.
Exactly. Give me more drama, you plebs.
We all have no money because we spend it on light novels, except for Bio.
Oh my
exactly.
God.
Come back. Come on, comment section. Give me some drama. Give me some conflict. Give me my amusement. Dance for me, mongrels. Dance, plebs, dance.
I'm very interested to see how the comment section's going to go for this.
I'm very interested to see how drastically different the first and second parts of this podcast are.
Well, that's why I'm here to make the podcast.
We're going to end it on the... Well, I guess it's debatable. You can say what note it is. This obviously is the first episode. We're just talking about, light novels in general, right? And what got us into them. So Tokyo Pop, like we were talking about that, they went bust, and, there's a whole bunch of titles that they had. And then that publisher, which I believe was like, we were talking Fujimi Shobu Fantasia, right? There with the spinoff. And we've now just gotten the very first title listed again from them with Yen On bringing out that My Mom Isekai one.
Yeah, and of all the ones to bring over.
That's quite the revolutionary light novel title. I never thought they'd do that. Like, clearly it's a deconstruction, reconstruction, deconstruction.
It's the Evangelion of Isekai.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be like the Eva. It's going to be the Evangelion. It's going to be the, it's the deconstruction, reconstruction, deconstruction, penguin squawking symbolism.
Well, but
the Citizen Kane of books.
But really, like when you think about it, actually, you're not too wrong, because I mean, Evangelion was pretty much all about having mama issues.
Yeah.
And daddy issues.
Well,
just issues.
But but I mean, like, seriously though, like that whole a lot of that show was all about like the absence of your mother, and and having issues with your mom and all this kind of stuff. And now Now, hey, you're stuck in a fantasy world and your mom's more OP than you are. How's that gonna go?
Oof.
Hey, come on, Shinji, get in the robot. Your dad loves you. Get in the robot. Go. Kick some butt in your robot. Get in the robot.
But going back to Fujimi Fantasia Bunko, it's definitely true that the Mom Isekai is the first light novel from that imprint that we got in a long time. But the publisher Fujimi Shobo itself, I think, does publish the Kadokawa Bunko books, which include Kumo Deska Nanika, which is So I'm a Spider, So What, as well as Death March, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were talking about that, and because we were wondering about exactly how this worked, and I think somebody was saying that I think what happens is there's a couple of different Fujimis, like it's specifically the Fantasia Bunko that hasn't licensed out, but there's another, or like they reorganized things, and so the Fujimi some of their titles ended up under the Kadokawa banner, so then those did get licensed even though they were Fujimi title. I don't know, there was some weird political, but in terms of, you're right, but like in terms of Fantasia, the Fujimi
is
subset,
politics.
oh god, apparently. But I mean, you can't really blame them, right? Like, I mean, they gave some of their most A-list titles, like, I mean, let's face it, Full Metal Panic and Slayers at the time that they were licensed were like some of the biggest A-list titles. I mean, my god, like Slayers, historically,
like back in the 90s, that was like the OG. That was like this OG of like fantasy series in the 90s.
Oh yeah, it's that owned.
Well,
the 90s,
yeah, and
man.
well, but I mean,
It's
even
crazy.
like historically, if you take a look at it, like Slayers is one of the first books that's acknowledged as being a light novel, right? Like it's considered sort of like, I mean, even though a lot of people say like Boogie Pop Phantom is sort of the beginning of the modern light novel.
Boogie Pop Phantom is like the postmodernist light novel. Everything's up to interpretation, man. It's all a delusion and illusion.
I mean, maybe it's the beginning of like what we consider like this modern generation of light novels, but there were definitely light novels before that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like Haruhi Suzumiya like kind of kickstarted like the moe trend, like the moe light novels of cute girls doing cute bullshit.
Yep. But I mean, well, and I think that's the thing, like Boogie Pop, like when I read Boogie Pop, the one thing that I looked at it and I was like, you know what? I see what they mean. Like, it's that whole blending of genre things, because Boogie Pop is sci-fi, Boogie Pop is horror, Boogie Pop is fantasy, Boogie Pop is, like you said, psych drama, split personality, I don't even know what the hell you're doing kind of stuff. Like, it's taking this one story and mashing it with every possible genre that you can really think of, and yet it still kind of works. And that's where I kind of think, like, when you take a look at light novels, like you said, like Haruhi, I mean, you've got like the cute moe kind of like, oh, school life and the weird quirky girl, and oh, by the way, she can kill the whole universe.
Plot twist.
If she gets bored.
Like,
it's honestly a big mood.
Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I think, and again, like, that's going back to, I think, what we were talking about earlier and what you guys were saying about that whole idea of like why light novels are cool, why anime is cool. It's that whole concept that you really can do anything. Like, you know,
the sky's the limit basically for light novels, anime, and manga. I mean, that's what got me into the medium, you know? Like Full Metal Alchemist, it talks about alchemy and bringing back people to life, and they have no souls, and then it talks about war and shows you the horrors of war. I mean, if you like in Full Metal Alchemist, like 2003, they have this like giant war in Scar's like hometown, and it's just like, holy crap! There's just blood and bodies and destruction everywhere, and no cartoon that I ever watched prior to that point would ever show that level of destruction and intensity to such a degree.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, this is the thing. And like, I mean, I know for me, like Evangelion was probably, I mean, I was into anime. I was watching anime before that, but Evangelion was, I think, the one that really kind of made me go, holy crap, like you can do anything. And I think it wasn't so much that because it blended all sorts of genres, it was because it was the idea that you can take something that seems as juvenile as giant robots and yet make it this incredibly introspective, psychologically probing show about damaged psyches, right? Like,
yeah, the thing about Ava is it like started out as like this like monster of the week kind of formula, and then it like evolved into like a character drama. You know, I mean, that's pretty cool. And the like the thing like with Ava is that a lot of like it's Ava's kind of a mind fuck, but once you like understand what's going on, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's that kind of aspect of Ava that a lot of people praise it for. It's kind of like you don't know what's really happening. You don't know where to put things in terms of context. Like, why is there multiple rays around? What are the robots made of? You know, why is Shinji getting in the robot? What are the angels? Why is there a Fujoshi angel that likes Shinji a lot?
Why does any of it even matter if all we're going to do is sit on a stool at the end of the show?
Congratulations. You've recreated the universe as a rom-com.
Oh god, we both said congratulations at the exact same time.
That was awesome. Come on. You know you're in the right room, right? But
on that subject, we're talking about how we all really like light novels because there basically are no limits except like basically what's legal and what publishers are willing to put out for light novels.
Fair enough.
In a similar sense, that's also sort of, to a lesser extent, the reason why fantasy is so popular with young adults and children nowadays with stuff like Harry Potter, because fantastical elements allow you to do basically anything and be imaginative as much as you want.
Yeah, like for example, whenever I read One Piece or Fueta, it makes me feel like, go on an adventure and fight the gods or some sort of totalitarian government. Like, it just makes me feel like, I'm going to go take a boat, grab some people, and go on an adventure. Like, who cares the map is already filled? But who cares, there's a church that's going to execute me for heresy. Screw it. I'm going to go on an adventure and just do stuff because I want to.
The best thing about that is that I can't tell whether the church executing you for heresy is One Piece or Arifureta.
It's actually both.
I was going to say it's kind of
We're diving into pure heresy by the Emperor. This is pure heresy.
And again, it could. And if he had thrown out at least 6 other titles, it could have been any of those too.
Yep.
Is it wrong to copy and paste ideas from other light novels? Find out in episode 2.
In a dungeon.
Yep.
Well, I think, and that's it, eh? Like, and that's the thing. Like, I read, obviously, with the YouTube channel, I try to read at least 1 or 2 books from as many series as I can, and I agree. Like, I think that you're right, Tom. Like, that whole fantasy aspect, and I think what really I love about light novels is that, it doesn't have to be fantasy to have fantasy. You know what I mean? Like even something like, my teenage romantic comedy is wrong as I expected, like you mentioned earlier. Even characters like that seem, even though they could be real, there's like this element of seeming almost fantastical in terms of how they think and how they emote and how they relate to one another. And
they're like pretty realistic characters in concept, but they're extremely exaggerated to get the point across.
Yeah, but the problem with like Snafu is they feel like light novel characters. Like, even though Hachiman is interesting and the other 2 cute girls that are with him, they're still confined for the fact that this is a light novel and it's based in high school. Like, how far can you really take high school bullshit?
Well, that's the surprising thing. You can take it pretty far in light novels.
Yep.
Only if it's supernatural.
Well, admittedly,
because you need a hobby.
I think you're
very
right.
inventive.
Well, yeah. I think the other thing about light novels that I like is that they don't, like, I find that with a lot of North American fantasy or even like urban fantasy, it's that whole idea of, the supernatural world is hidden from you, right? Like, you become aware of it. But and
that's like
existing.
Never the case in light novels. It's just always blatant, just magic in public.
Right, like,
no one gives a crap. Like, there's witches, there's demons, there's angels, there's God. Who cares? Let's just, oh yeah, by the way, Greg, give me my tax return.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, like, you take a look at like these things that we have in terms of light novels, that it's true that these weird events can happen and they're just like, yeah, okay, well, that's just kind of how it is. Like, I mean, Strike the Blood. Oh yeah, there's a whole island and it's filled with demons. And kids just
nothing to see here.
And kids just go to school and like, oh yeah, there's a vampire crossing the street and I'm just walking to school because it's all good.
The fourth primogenitor is my classmate. Nothing to see here. He could just blow up the city in an instant. Nothing to see here. He's just draining blood out of whoever cares to build up his army. Who cares?
Don't let him
not
get,
my problem.
Don't let him get
On
too
a
horny.
side note, many light novels that are like popular light novels that have been adapted into anime, like a few years ago specifically, they have a real fascination with taking place on islands in the middle of nowhere.
Because no one cares. Like, if this was like imagine if Strike the Blood took place in Tokyo. I mean, it would be a field day. Like, half the city would be destroyed in an instant.
Certain
They'd have
natural
like
index.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
look
they
at,
wanna
look at
have it-
Accelerator. I mean, the Accelerator. I mean, most of the characters in like Index are like war machines. I mean, they do magic and Esper powers. And Toma, whenever he gets his like right arm removed, he summons that giant dragon thing. We don't know what the hell that is yet because the author wants to keep cock teasing with us. But it's just like, I mean, imagine the level of destruction they would cause, like in Tokyo or Kyoto or heck, even in America. Like, you'd have the police down there 24/7. Like, they'd be cracking down like totalitarian state style.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they want to tell these stories in the real world, but without having real world consequences.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine what would happen if people found out, like, everyone knew about Toma. They knew that his ability was he can negate their powers, so what makes him special is worth diddly shit compared to him. And also, if you cut off his right arm, he's going to summon a giant dragon thing that'll eat you whole.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Too.
Spoiler alert. Spoilers. Spoiler alert.
It's funny.
Only
I
happens in the
say
second
I
volume.
say
Big
spoiler
spoiler.
for book 2 as if it's like not a big deal, but I haven't finished book 2 yet. I'm on book 2 actually.
Well, spoiler alert for a certain magical index. You're not living your life correctly. Punch.
I know. I have all the volumes available in English actually.
Stop this behavior at once. I don't like it. Punch.
Punch.
I was actually going to start reading it again because we were talking about it a few days ago in the other voice channel, and I was looking forward to it. I was getting hyped, but I got a lot of homework.
Yeah. Well, doesn't that just ruin everything with light novels? I gotta work a job. There's homework. There's all those things that get in the way.
That's why
I
isekai
can't.
exists.
I can't read the latest issue of Toma telling people, why they're wrong and punching character development into them. I just want to get that extra punch.
So, all right. So, you know what? I'm going to start kind of reeling us in because we're like 50 minutes pushing an hour. Just because, I had to say the same thing on the other half too, because I'm like, 2 hours for our first podcast is pretty ambitious already.
Heck yeah.
Hey, Justus R. Stone, the world was built on ambition. Like, no one would talk about Oba Nobunaga if he didn't have the balls to try and unify Japan.
Well, true story. And will they
He
talk
did.
about us because we have the balls to try and conquer the light novel fandom?
Yes.
Maybe not. The light novel fandom's small.
Well, but this is the point: is to try and grow it, to expand it. And I mean,
The seed of ambition starts from just a single stalk and then it grows into a mighty oak.
there you go, buddy. Wow, you're so poetic tonight. It's awesome.
My special Esper power is Shill Breaker. It's where I shill things so that people read light novels.
That's right, Shillbreaker. Yeah, I like that.
My special ability is being politically incorrect and not giving a fuck. That's my Esper power.
Nice.
I'm a level 6 biomechanical Esper. I used to be part of an ancient civilization that went extinct because the ancient Egyptians stole our technology and shit. And then I'm planning to raise up an army to take back what was rightfully ours.
OC,
do you-
do not steal.
Do you write
It's
light
not
novels?
stealing when we originally owned it. We invented light novels and all that stuff. Humans stole it from us. Basically what happened is that biomechanical race went through a massive civil war and our human slaves rose up in revolt and stole our technology. But thank God we had nuclear devices because we nuked them back to the Stone Ages. Damn traitors.
So much for reeling in this podcast.
Yeah, it's kind of going really off the rails. Wow, it's turning into a light novel.
Heck yeah.
My whole life is a light novel, my dude.
Well, we did.
I'll eventually write my chronicles of how I conquered the East Indian Pacific Ocean, which back in the day when I was around, essentially when I was around, Japan and China were unified. And it was like a small stream going, like a small like ocean current going through it. And I'll write this down somewhere.
We did say that we did say that one of the games we might play is actually writing a light novel on this podcast, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, well, I live in New Zealand, and originally New Zealand was the Trans-Pacific Trans-Pacific Empire, and it eventually fell to infighting over a sandwich. So,
Okay.
Hey, at least your country did not sue a bunch of clacker balls, okay?
we didn't invent that. It was a human idea.
There you go. Well, so it could be like I was reborn as a sandwich that felled the kingdom. I don't know. It's late. I'm losing it now.
I was reborn as an OC. Do not steal.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. So yes, to everybody listening, these are going to be our continued ramblings. This is the continued ramblings of the Starship Light Novel Podcast. To boldly go
AKA New Testament of Light Novels, Volume 1.
Yes.
All light novels are trash.
To boldly go where no light novel podcast has ever gone before. So if you've managed to listen this far in the podcast, we are going to have this posted on YouTube, and it is also on our website, lightnovelpodcast.com. You can leave comments. TM. Registered trademark. Okay. You can leave comments on the website and on YouTube, obviously. What we are looking for is, we're just wondering if you've listened to this whole thing and what kind of series you want to hear us go on about. And yes, we will go very spoilers on the series. We will be no holds barred on them. So
I'm never no holds bar.
Well, we kind of figured that out by now. I'm pretty sure they're bio. It's all good.
Not even just no holds bar, just no bar.
Just no bar. We ain't holding nothing.
Yeah, screw morals. Give me
hold.
more drama. Fight me, plebs. I want to
Friend
conquer
me on
humanity.
MySpace.
So leave us comments on the website or on YouTube. Let us know what kind of series you would like us to talk about. Let us know about things that you are curious about light novels, and we will address them as well. We've got all sorts of plans and ideas to make this fun for listeners and also make it informative. And we look forward to continuing this. So there you go. Thank you very much, guys, for taking your time out. We managed to actually put together a light novel podcast with 8 people in it, even though we had to break it into 2 parts. But we did it. Considering that we covered like Canada, the US, Germany, New Zealand, like we've covered some pretty good ground too in terms of geography here. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining me here today. And of course, all of us working together in the future. For all of you listeners, like I said, leave us your comments. We really do look forward to seeing what you think and what you want. And we will be here. The plan is in 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks very much. We will talk to you all later. Bye for now. For show notes and related links, visit lightnovelpodcast.com.